and welcome to another exciting episode of the Dreaded Archer podcast. Today I got a special guest, guys, Mr. Will Cooper. How you doing today, Will?
Good man, good dude. That intro's pretty dope. I like it.
Hey, I'm learning how to do a lot of the editing myself, so I kind of put something together. I'm like, you know what, I think this looks good because I really don't like paying people to do stuff that I can, learn myself.
A hell of a job, man. That looks pretty cool.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. So, I was. How's your season been going so far, as far as for turkeys?
Man, I got one down. I think it was like 2 weeks ago, and man, we did a camp with Hunt Stand and NWTF at the beginning of April, and we put down 4 birds while we were there. So I got to be a part of those. Didn't kill, but I filmed and guided on those. But then I killed one myself, and then trying to get another one or two down out here with some buddies in Central Texas, and went out yesterday afternoon. And we had a bird ghost us. He came in, gobbled like 2 or 3 times, and he shut up. But I could hear him spitting and drumming just
Yeah.
on like we were down in this drainage that they typically come down, and I could just hear him right at the top just spitting and drumming. I'm like, oh crap, he's coming in. And we watched him come in at like 20, 30 yards. You could see him coming through the brush, and then he just wouldn't come into any of the openings. I don't know where he went. Um, Went out this morning to a new piece of property I hadn't been on in actually quite a while. New piece of turkey property, and I had 2 hens come with like 6 yards of me. Like I could have slapped one of the hens. She got so close. But no, it's been good, man. It's been good. Running out of time. Our last day is not this Sunday, but the next. I think it's the 16th. And then just trying to see if I can get some down before I actually head out to the BHA rendezvous on the 12th. So hopefully I can put one or two more down before then.
Oh heck yeah, my season has been rough. I haven't. I've only seen one Tom, and he wouldn't even like. He was probably 100 yards away from me, and
Mhm.
that's it. I haven't heard or seen anything else since the first day I went out. So
Dude, it's been a weird season. Like I've talked to a lot of guys that are hunting across the nation, and it seemed like a lot of these birds were in like their winter flocks and just grouped up for so long and not talk, or like they talk on the roost, they gobble their head off, but as soon as they hit the ground, it's like they ghost you. And I feel like it, like here in Texas, I feel like I literally had a 2 week window where it was insane, and now it seems like their gobbling has gotten down to a minimum now.
oh yeah, that's like they didn't get the memo. It's turkey season, man.
I know it's like I don't know if we didn't have a winter, or winter was too late, or I don't know, man. These turkeys are gonna do what these turkeys want to do.
Oh yeah, that's how it goes with hunting, man. That's how it goes. So hey, so Will, let the people know a little bit about your background, who you are, where you come from, and you'll fill them in.
Yeah, man. So I'm originally Central Texas boy, born and raised. Kind of lived around different cities in Texas, and born or grew up hunting and fishing, all thanks to my dad. And I really got into archery when I found a recurve in his closet. I'd already killed a couple of deer at this point. I think I was 11 or 12. And I find this stick and string and this old school leather quiver with these feathered arrows. I'm like, what is this? And then like I dug deeper and I found the old school compound bow with like the old wheels. And I'm asking my dad, like, what is this? And he's like, he tells me. And so eventually I got into a Browning Rage, was my first bow ever. And man, I shot my first doe when I was in high school. And then ever since then, I have been hooked. Um, but I was a college track and field athlete, turned into a college track and field coach, did that for some time. And actually, before that, I got my introduction to the outdoor industry working for Carico TV, where basically I got to film a lot of hunting and fishing shows, guided. My boss was Wade Middleton. A lot of people know who he is in the industry. So he kind of gave me that introduction. Then I went back to coaching when I got that call, met my wife, and then we moved to Austin, Texas, where I actually managed an archery shop for a while. And then I got hooked up with Numa, did some stuff with them for a while, and now I'm at Hunt Stand as the content marketing manager.
Oh dang! So you pretty much had your foot in the industry for a while.
Yeah, I did for a little bit in 2014 and 15, then dipped out and went to coaching for a little bit. Coached at the collegiate level, and then I got my foot back into it. I was kind of at that point in my life where I was at a crossroads. I was like, okay, do I want to be a coach or do I want to be in the outdoor industry? And things are crazy in the world. Too many parents were getting involved with these kids, calling me
Ooh.
like, "Hey, my son's been kicked off the team. Why is he kicked off the team?" It's like, well, did he tell you that he was partying and not going to class and not coming to practice, and that's why he wasn't on my team? And so that was kind of a wake up call for me. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go do what I love. Not that I didn't love coaching, but I really love hunting and fishing. And I was just like, I'm gonna go find something in the outdoor industry and try to make a name for myself.
Oh, heck yeah. When I was in college, I went in thinking I'm going to be a coach. Like that's what I want to do. I want to
Yeah.
be around football. And then I, went and played football and I started looking around the locker room and I'm like, do I really want my job to, be depending on
On these
some
kids.
kids when they're kids or kids, young adults? I'm like, nah, I don't think I want to do that. And
Hmm.
I know how I was as a college athlete, and I was like, I don't think I could manage. It's too stressful.
Man, it wasn't. And the thing that I struggled with, and I haven't told a lot of people this, but I coached at the Division 3 level, so we didn't have athletic scholarships, and so there were kids like that were taking out student loans that they had no
Oh
business.
man.
They had no business taking out a student loan. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with it at all, but like, you know, they give money to anybody,
Oh
and
yes.
they're giving kids like 70, $80,000 in loans. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, I can't go into this kid's home and tell him and his parents he needs to come run for me or her and for $80,000 in debt, and they're more than likely they're not going to be a professional athlete. And so it was a real struggle for me, and that was also kind of an indicator for me. It's like, hey, this ain't for me anymore.
Yeah, like, so when I got recruited, at the beginning, my first school I went to was the Naval Academy. So I didn't
Yeah,
really know about, student loans and none of that because it was all paid for.
yeah,
So my beginning of my junior year at Navy, I just transferred to Southern Arkansas, which is it was a D2, yeah, D2 school.
yeah, yeah.
So you got some guys on full ride, but for the most part, people either on partial. They try to piece together scholarships,
Hmm.
academic, athletics and all that. So I get there, and it was like the fourth or fifth week of school, and I start seeing a lot of teammates walk in with, Xboxes and TVs and shoe boxes. I'm like, hey, like, what's going on? Everybody got money? It's like, oh yeah, man, yeah, we got the refund checks. So I'm like, refund checks, like, oh yeah, man, you go over there, you student loan, go to the financial aid center, you fill out
Hmm.
some paperwork on the computer, and boom, you get a fat check, man. It's free money.
But you got to pay for it later on down the road.
Yeah, I'm like, free money. So I go over there and I'm like, hey, they said we got some free money. It's like, oh, it's like, son, it's a loan. You got to pay it back later on. I'm like, oh, I'm good then. I don't need it.
Oh no, dude. Oh, yeah. That's man. Yeah, college athletics. Um, it's a dirty business, man.
Yeah.
And when I think one of the other things that kind of made me switch my mind to the outdoor industry was, I mean, as well as I do, like there's a lot of football athletes out there that are told, man, you're gonna go pro one day.
Hmm.
You just work hard, dream big, and you keep doing it, you're gonna go pro. And that's all these kids have known for 18 to 20 years of their lives. Then junior year of college, tear that ACL, career's over, or
Nothing to
another
fall back
career
on.
in yeah, another career ending industry, and they're like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And it's just like, man, like our society has been so heavily revolved around athletics, and that's just kind of like, man, I ca morally and ethically, I can't do this anymore. I'm out.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of why I got into hunting because so I graduated, and you've
Mhm.
been playing football for so long, and you kind of it kind of becomes your identity. You know what I'm saying? Like that's who you are. You're a football player. You're an athlete.
Yeah.
And I went through a little bit of the, depression. Just like
Mhm.
what do I do now? And uh, I ended up moving to South Dakota and found an archery shop just driving by and walked in. The guy kind of introduced me to archery. Like, hey, this is what it is. This is how you shoot a bow and all that. And after shooting it a couple times on the range, I'm like, I like this. And he goes, oh yeah, you can get into like some target shooting,
Mm-hmm.
competitions and all that. And I was like, all right. So I got in one, and after, I mean, I got my butt kicked. So first time, archer, but it got me hooked. It got me hooked, and that helped me get out that depression. So it's like I totally understand. You know what I'm saying? Like that
Oh yeah,
being an athlete, you need something to fall back on. You know what I'm saying? Whether it be
you
hunting or
do.
something, but something to fall back on.
Yeah, you do, man. And I definitely hear what you're saying because I went through that. Like, it's funny because I tore my hamstring my sophomore year of college.
Mm.
And, like I had these aspirations to go to nationals. I was a nationally ranked athlete. I'm like, I want to be the best. And then just boop, done. Like when they picked me up off the track, it looked like somebody just took like the 8 ball off of a pool table and shoved it up under my leg. Like it just balled up. And Doc was like, man, he goes, you can do rehab and you probably won't be as fast. You could go be a distance runner. I'm like, nope, I'm a sprinter. I ain't, nope. Anything past 400 meters, no. Like I don't even jog. I hate running now. Like I'll just I put my Kafaru on my back and I'll go put a couple miles in that way because I can put a good podcast on, put some music on, and go. But long distance, no. He goes, so you can do that. Probably won't be as fast, or you can do surgery and maybe be as fast. And I was just like, nah. And so that's where I had set my bow down for a couple of years, picked it back up. I actually started a college bass fishing team and was able to do something competitively to finish out my college degree.
Oh, dang, you sound like me, man. I tore my hamstring on the last leg of 400 meters going into the state championship and went to
Whew.
hand the baton off, and it felt like somebody shot me right in the back of the leg.
Dude, like those shocking sticks that they use for like cattle. You ever
Yeah,
seen it? Dude, I felt like have you ever been shocked by one of those before?
I have.
Dude, that's literally what it felt like in the back of my leg. And you can see the video. I just like shot straight up and then just rolled and ate it. I'm like,
Oh, man,
ow.
hey, those injuries, they'll make you rethink your whole life, man.
They do. They do, man.
Oh, yeah. So how did you get into like the content creation part of, the hunting industry?
Dude, it was around that same time that I'd kind of had that mental pivot where I was just like, okay, I really don't want to do coaching anymore. And that's when I started to see like these YouTubers, like the Guggen Squad guys, the Hushin guys, the Born and Raised guys. I'm like, I want to do that. And I came up with this brand called the Weekend Outdoorsman. And starting off, I was like, I, I was too shy, too nervous to like post things about myself or post it all because I was too worried about what other people were going to think, my friends, family. Like, oh, you can't do this. It's not you. It's not what you're going to do. And I just said, screw it. So I just kind of started my own little brand, and it slowly started to build. And then I actually started a podcast for that for a little while, and then that's when I got hooked up with Numa and just started flying from there. And I had done some like small contract social media management positions for some small fishing bait companies. I worked for an athletic rehabilitation facility for a little while. Trying to think what else I did. And then like the archery shop that I managed, they had me run social media. So I really got to get my feet wet and immerse myself in the wormhole and just start to build myself. And that's really how I got started with content.
Oh, man, like, cause I watch a lot of your stuff, when I watch, but I look at your Instagram and all, I'm like, man, this dude is banging, man.
Thanks, dude.
Like, dude, like your photography work is wild. Like, it actually made me go get a better camera,
Did
and
it?
I'm like, I got the camera, but now I don't even know how to do none of this stuff.
Dude, you just got to learn. Like I've spent so many hours on YouTube, like watching guys, or like I've learned from another buddy of mine. His name's Ryan Haynes. You've probably seen him on social media. That he's got some pretty dope photography, and I'm still like, I appreciate you telling me I got good photography. Like it's okay. I'm getting there. Like every time I'll put a photo out and I'll come back and look at it like a couple days later. I'm like, damn, I wish I would have done this, and this on it instead. Or like, I keep wanting to make myself better, but it gets better with each one.
Oh yeah, dude. Like the one thing that you do that I love is like those nighttime pictures. Like I can't remember. I think you were. I think it was like one of your, a Colorado hunt you had taken pictures of. You
Yeah,
got like your whole camp set up, and you got the night sky. I'm like,
yeah.
how the hell did he do that with a camera?
Dude, you got to get a good lens that has a, I don't know if it's a smaller aperture or bigger aperture. It's a f 2.8 lens, and I basically, and I honestly, the way that I've gotten those photos was dumb luck. Like I, my dad was a graphic design major in college, and so he was a big photographer, like the old school days, like the film days. And he was telling me, like, we were just sitting around camp one night, and he's like, "Yeah, I used to get like nighttime photos and keeping the shutter open for longer." And I was like, "I think I could do that with my camera." And so, like, I literally walked like 100 yards away from our camp, did that, and I think I put the shutter on like 30 seconds or something like that. And I can't even remember what my ISO was set at in the aperture. You have to tinker with it. Like it took
Right.
me 10 or 15 photos to finally get a solid one. But I love the nighttime ones are my favorite ones.
Oh yeah, dude. Those are the coolest pictures.
Dude, thanks. My favorite, I think my favorite one or favorite ones were from when I went to Nebraska last year on a whitetail hunt. And we did one where I was like walking back to the truck. There was like a couple hay bales that we were parked next to, and like had the headlamp on. That we got some cool pictures doing that. And then we were sitting in front of the camp next to a campfire. Those are my favorite ones.
Oh heck yeah, man. So so what kind of advice would you give, a guy that's getting involved into, um, posting, hunting content? Like, what content should they be putting out there?
So it's funny you asked me this because I have a really good friend of mine here. Um, he was telling me like he has his own piece of property and they've got a lot of axis deer and whitetail. And he's like, man, I want to post stuff, but like I'm afraid of what people are going to say or like our buddies making fun of me or something. I'm like, dude, screw the noise. Just start posting. Like, post what you're doing, post anything, like whatever you're passionate about, like it's going to show in that post. Whether it's archery, rifle hunting, like whatever it is, just start posting and screw all the noise. Don't worry about what people think. Don't worry about the haters because honestly, the haters, they're just jealous. And
Yeah.
so, like, you just got to start posting, man. But doing it what you're passionate about. Don't try to be fake about it or, don't portray yourself to be this professional is kind of one of the things that I try to stand by myself because I'm not a professional. I'm still figuring this game out.
Right.
Um, like I feel like I'm barely getting started. And so you just got to post and block out all the hate.
Oh, that's it. And you get a lot of it on especially on Instagram, people coming in saying no, not like you get a lot of it, but
Oh,
when
I
you're
did.
posting, people tend to, oh, you're just doing this to get likes and views and
Hmm.
all this other stuff. And it's like, this is what I do. Like, this is what I like to do. And
Yeah.
I let people know off rip. I am not a professional.
Hmm.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm learning on the fly. I'm building the plane as I'm flying it.
Dude, same. And like one of the craziest things that happened to me last year, there was a video that I posted from TAC actually in Texas where I think we were shooting the knock on course and I was shooting across this pond at a bedded elk target. And it was like 109, 112 yards, something like that. And what was funny was I posted this reel. There was no music behind it whatsoever. And we had a camera crew with us from Numa filming this. And people somehow they just forgot, but there was like 10 people off to the side. You can hear camera shutters going off as I shoot, but there were so many I got so much hate on that. Like I got death threats from people because they thought I was shooting a real elk. They thought I was shooting a real elk. And then the thing that pissed me off the most was there were actually other hunters that got on there, and some of them just obviously don't understand arrow drop whatsoever. And I mean, you can't judge distance from a video, but
Right.
all you see is this arrow going up and then dropping down into the elk. And there are other hunters that were hating on me, like, oh, he shot over those trees, he shot the sky, blah blah blah. That video has over 16 million views. Don't ask me how. I broke the algorithm, I guess, but somehow it did that, and I got majority of hate stuff from tree huggers and some other hunters.
I don't doubt it, man. I don't doubt it. Anytime you post anything on any of the social media platforms, get ready. You might get 50% hate, 50% congratulations.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So, how was it working with Numa?
Man, it was fun. Um, it was a really good icebreaker for me to getting into the industry and immersing myself even more. Uh, the funny thing is, there's a parent company that actually owns Numa that also owns another retail store here in Texas. Well, I'd gone in with the intention to become the assistant manager for the store. They had archery, and so I figured I'd work behind the counter for that. And when I went in, the CEO for Numa at the time, he goes, "Yeah, we're not hiring you for assistant manager position." And he had seen what had happened was he had seen my resume of the stuff that I'd done with social media management, had started my own podcast, and he goes, "We're not going to hire you for the store." And I'm sitting there, I'm like, we've barely even talked for 5 minutes. Like, how can you say that? Like, I've got a kid that was just born. I need a job. And he goes, "No, I know." He goes, "Have you ever heard of Numa?" And I'm like, no, I haven't. And then he shows me this camo that's sitting on this clothing rack. And then he dives into the whole bow hunter thing and dives into it. And he said, "We need a social media manager. I want to start a podcast and a content creator. Does that sound like you?" And I said, "Abso-freaking-lutely. Let's go." And so that's really how I got into Numa, and I really liked it because I got to go to a ton of tax. I got to travel a lot, went to a ton of elk shaped camps, um, went on a lot of content shoots for hunts, and it was a really good icebreaker for me to really get my feet wet and immersed, and help me get to where I am today with Hunt Stand.
Oh, heck yeah. Actually, you mentioned elk shape. That's actually how I heard about Numa.
Really?
Yeah, I was so of course I live here in South Dakota, but
Hmm.
all my family they live back in Texas. So every once in a while I hit the road, go home. So I popped in a podcast and I usually listen to Joe Rogan, but I for some odd reason elk shape popped up on my Spotify. So like, I've seen the guy on YouTube a couple times. I listened to one of his podcasts and
Yeah,
he basically did the whole that episode was of what him interviewing one of the guys from Numa and talking about the brand and
that was me. That
that
was
was you.
me. Yeah, that was our CEO Cody Roberts and myself. He did that, and the funny thing about that podcast, the first time we recorded it, he actually forgot to hit record. So he calls me back like 30 minutes later. He goes, "Hey man, I forgot to hit record. We need to redo this." I'm like, "Oh, damn."
Oh, that's wild, man. So that was you on the podcast.
Yeah, it was me and our CEO.
Yeah, it's been a minute since I listened to it, but I'm like, what is Numa? Because at the time I was, new to hunting. I'm used to buying
Mhm.
like hunting clothes from Walmart, man. I was brand new
Dude,
to it.
I did the same
Whatever.
thing. Same
So I'm
thing.
like, well, let me see what Numa is. And so listen to the podcast, and I'm looking at my phone, like, cool clothes. So I finally get home and still looking at it. I'm like, oh, they're out of Texas. Oh, definitely got to buy it now. So I just bought some pants, a shirt, a pullover,
Mhm.
and I'm like once I got them, like this is my brand now. So
Dude, I remember, what was it? I think, did you shoot a pronghorn this past year?
I did.
That's okay. So that's where I first started seeing your photos because you were tagging Numa in it, and I was managing the social media at the time for them, and I remember seeing that photo.
Yep, that was my first pronghorn, man. That got me hooked.
It's an addiction, man. It's an addiction.
Oh yeah, have you ever been pronghorn hunting?
No, I've actually got an application in right now to go up to Montana. Hopefully, we'll get drawn. We're gonna try and film some stuff for Hunt Stand up there this August. So fingers crossed on that one.
Oh heck yeah! Well, they out there because I was just in Billings, and the whole way there, all I saw was from South Dakota all the way over to Montana.
Mm-hmm.
Just a ton and tons and tons of antelope.
Dang.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm
So
excited about it.
what do you hunt? Like, what's your game of choice?
Ooh, man, if I had to narrow it down to one, I mean, of course, I love whitetail, I love turkey, but if there was one thing left on this planet that I could hunt, I would have to say archery elk all the way.
Oh man, have you been on elk hunt?
Dude, I've been on three now, and this past year was the closest I've gotten. Well, not the closest, but the best encounter I've had. Um, we had gone up on one side of this mountain, and we had actually stopped and glassed across the valley, and it was actually about 3 miles. But the first valley or opening that we look up in this aspen grove, there's about 30 elk that just crossed, and you could tell there were about 5 or 6 bulls in there just because of body size. I mean, it was so far you couldn't see antlers, but you could tell from body size that they were bulls.
Right.
And so we're like, all right, we got to figure out how to get to that side of the mountain tonight. And so we found this trail. It was actually a horse trail that took us up, and it gained 2,000 feet in elevation in less than 3 miles. And so, sure, it was a nice clear trail, but it kicked our ass getting up there. Like it sucked. One of the
Mm-hmm.
one of the guys we were with actually had to turn around after mile one because he wasn't in shape. And so, dude, we get up there and we get set up close to where we had seen them that morning. We'd actually marked on a hunt stand that morning. We're like, okay, this is where they were this morning. Let's get there. And so we set up, and I just started doing a bunch of lost calf cow sounds, and all of a sudden it sounds like a freaking horse is running up behind us. And we look, and this cow just comes trotting in. We're like, holy crap! Like if I had a cow tag, I could have lasered her right there.
Yeah.
And and she never saw us, and she never blew out because she was upwind of us. And so she just kind of eventually she's like, okay, there's no calf here, and so she left. Well, then all of a sudden you just hear this big, nasty, gnarly bull. And the guy that I was with, um, he's like, dude, we need to get that dude fired up. So like I'd bugle at him and he'd bugle back, and then I start cutting him off, and then I'd start chuckling at him, and it just pissed him off. Well, finally, about 16 cows just come up into this valley, and we're like, holy crap, here they come at like 70, 76 yards. And then here comes this bull. And the guy that I was with, he's killed a couple of elk already. And I'm like, dude, that's a big freaking bull. And I tried to cut them off a little bit. And because I still had him pissed off, and I started getting the cows to come to me because I started calling to them. And so they start coming to me. Well, he gets pissed off, gets in the middle of them, and just takes them up off the mountain like 300 yards away. And so it was a freaking awesome experience. Like I haven't had a back-to-back calling match with a herd bull like that. And then so we're walking down the mountain, and the guy I'm with, I'm like, man, like I can't score elk. I'm not that good at it
Yeah.
yet.
Hey, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, like I haven't killed one yet. I can't tell you. And so my the guy I was with, I was like, dude, I think he was like a 315, 320. He's like, yeah, yeah. And so the next day, where he has a house actually close to where we were hunting, and so it was actually a couple days later we had gone back to the house because we had this sheep herd, like 1,000 sheep, come over the mountain and just kind of blew the valley out. So we're looking up at this elk that's on the mantelpiece of his fireplace, and I'm like, that's about a 315, 320 bull. And he's like, yeah, that's a 315, 320 bull. He goes, Will, the bull that you had in front of you was about a 350, 360. And I was like,
Oh man.
and so we put in for tags this year. Hopefully we get party drawn for it and go back to that same unit because there's a lot of elk. So hopefully we get the chance to go back. But yeah, long story short, because of that, I will always choose elk hunting.
Oh yeah, I went on my first trip last September,
Did you?
and oh, dude, it was it was miserable. It was miserable, and it was actually, take that back. The first day was miserable, and that's because so I was coming from South Dakota. My buddy was coming from Arkansas,
Mm-hmm.
so probably 18-hour trip for me, probably 21 hour trip for him.
Where'd you go?
We went to Colorado. We went over to over by Montrose,
Okay.
kind of south.
Mm-hmm.
So we get there around 3 o'clock. So we drove straight through the night, both of us. No break, nothing. Just found a spot, got out the car, and started hiking up the mountain. And I get about 15, maybe 20 minutes in, and I was like, bro, I'm gonna pass out. My legs are burning, my back is burning. I got way too much stuff in my pack. I think my pack weighed probably like 30, maybe 40 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Ton of stuff that I didn't need, and just like probably not even hydrated at the time, anyways. And I was like, if it's gonna be like this all week, I don't want to do this anymore. But so we immediately bagged out. Maybe after about 45 minutes of walking, we just bagged out, got to
Mm-hmm.
the truck, went, got something to eat, some water, relaxed, and made a game plan. And then the next day, we wasn't even 15 minutes in, and we had a cow and a bull come, running right at us. And the bull
Heck
kind
yeah.
of stopped at about 40 yards, and I was like, "Oh, hey, this is gonna be this easy. Let's go ahead and put this in the dirt." And then here comes a guy on a 4 wheeler, right, coming, because it was actually a bear
Uh,
season. So he comes on a 4 wheeler, bull runs off. Well, that's it. And later on that day, we actually had another encounter. We had a nice 6x6. I don't know what he would have scored, but he came in about 38 yards, but he was held up behind these like pine trees. And I'm at full draw. I'm ready to go, and the wind changes. I'm talking like, if this is the pine tree, he's just a step behind, like right there.
mm-hmm.
Wind changes, he takes off, and that was the last elk we saw that week.
Damn.
But I
Yeah.
loved it though. Oh, actually, no, I take that back. We spooked. We're just walking back to the truck and spooked two bulls that were bedded down. I was like,
Bro, I love it, man. Like some of the best sleep I've gotten is on the mountain. Like, did y'all spike camp or did y'all stay at the truck?
no, so we were one day we stayed a couple days we stayed at the truck, and then 2 nights we stayed little camp, just pitched our tent and just chilled
Mm.
out.
Dude, that's the best sleep I've ever gotten.
Not for me, man. I kept thinking everything outside the tent sounded like it was the biggest bear in the world.
Dude, I'll tell you, the scariest thing I've had was actually at truck camp last year. So we get to this area and we had a small pond below us, and we had gotten there and set up camp at night. And dude, all of a sudden you know what a tree sounds like when it starts falling. You just start hearing that cracking and popping. And
Yeah,
all of a sudden you're pop, 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 and you're woof, hits the ground. It's like, what the hell, man? And so we get up the next morning. Well, camp that we had set up, which we're like, oh man, there's nobody here. This is awesome. Like, why is nobody camped here? Well, we found out the next morning when we got up, we'd actually camped by a beaver pond, and these
oh,
beavers were coming up like 100 yards away from their pond, and they were knocking down aspen trees in the middle of the night. And when we looked around, like they were just knocked down all around our camp, and we're like, oh shit,
that could have
this
been bad.
this could have been bad, you know. Hey, guess tell my daughter one day, hey, how did dad go? Oh, well, he got killed by a beaver putting a tree down on the truck.
I mean, what was it? Big trees?
Dude, I mean, like,
Big enough to crush a truck.
oh yeah, big enough to, yeah, I mean, they were probably, I mean, like your average size aspen. I mean, they're probably like what, a foot and a half in diameter, if not bigger. Like
Mm,
they're just chewing these through these things, and they're just
knock
knocking them
them down.
down. Yeah. So word of advice: don't set up camp near a beaver pond.
Right. I would have went looking for the beavers.
Oh, dude, they were. It was funny because like in the middle of the night, we kept hearing like slap, like they would slap their tails on the water in the middle of the night. We're like, dang, there must be some fish in there. Well, the next morning when we get up and you go to find a spot to hit the head, and we're looking around like I'm just sitting there looking up at the mountains, and I hear that, and look, it's a freaking beaver just slapping its tail on the water.
Oh, you should got him. That'd been some good eating.
Oh, I've never had it before.
Me neither, but I'm sure it's good. I don't know.
Heck, I couldn't tell you.
I know I got one of the meat eater cookbooks, and they have a recipe for beaver tail. Say it tastes like bacon. So
What?
that's what they say. So I got to figure it. I got to find out now.
Need to figure out what the legality is behind shooting a beaver in Colorado.
It's probably got to get a small game tag.
Probably.
Yep, I don't know. So do you prefer doing a spike camp or just going back to the truck or your hotel at night?
Man, so I mean, we don't go back to hotel because I mean, like we get like where we were camped last year. Like you're just too far in. That's too much gas, too much time and money. So it depends on the elk. Um, if we go into an area and we just don't hear crap, we don't see crap, we're gonna come back to the truck. Um, but if we're in an area where we know there's elk and we want to be there before daylight and we don't want to have to get up at the ass crack of dawn, then we camp out. We spike camp.
Yeah. You know, my thing is I always second guess myself. Like we'll
Mhm.
hike in somewhere and we might not see anything, and I'm like, let's go back to the truck and regroup.
Mhm.
And my buddy's like, no, man, we just stay here and work from here, and we can kind of go back and forth. I, I don't know. I guess my thing is I haven't had a chance to get to Colorado and scout enough to say like I know the elk are right here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, what do you do when it comes to like do you like if you're gonna say you're gonna hunt Oregon to elk hunt? Are you
Mhm.
just gonna use hunt stand and do some e scouting, or are you gonna like make some time and go out there and search the unit?
For me, like I can't really justify that with the wife to go out there and scout unless I can somehow like pair a vacation with it and I can get away for a day or two, but that's highly unlikely. Um, so I try to just e-scout as much as possible. I try to get as much intel as I can. Like I will call the resident game warden for that unit and for that area. Like I'll call the wildlife office and see if they'll give me the game warden's number, um, and try to talk with him, get some intel. Because a lot of times, like the game warden, like if you ask a very specific set of details, not just hey, where the elk at,
Right.
if you ask him like a specific set of details, like hey, I'm looking at this road, this drainage, this creek, this elevation, I'm going to be there on this date. What has historically, like how, what have you seen before? Like, are they there? Are they up higher? Are they lower? And a lot of times they're going to give you some pretty good intel. Um, and I really just try to e-scout, and then I'll scour different forums, and a lot of times you'll find information on areas from 5 6 7 years, even further, a couple years old, and just try to put together as much information as I can before I get out there. And then I mean, as soon as I get out there, like I'm still in the learning process. Like
Right.
last year my brother had a tag and I didn't for a specific unit, and so the first day, I mean, heck, the first 45 minutes, I mean, I like to try and call about every 400 or 500 yards, or kind of call as we go and try to sound like a herd of elk. And when we did that, we actually had a raghorn bull just pop up at like 15 yards. Couldn't get a shot at him. And so we're like, okay, there's elk here. And then we got in and we found fresh crap. We found relatively fresh wallows. I mean, we're like, okay, we're in it. Next morning, we had a bull bugle, and I think we pressed our luck a little too hard and tried to get in on him too soon. I think he saw us because the wind was good, so I think he just saw us trying to get around some deadfall. So we're like, all right, first 2 days have been a relatively good success compared to years prior. Well, then it's like they just disappeared, but there was sign everywhere. And so we're like, we can't leave. There's sign, like there's wallows, there's rubs everywhere, there's crap, like we can't leave.
Right.
Well, looking back on it, we had gone after Labor Day, and so we had kind of gotten there. We think we kind of got there at the tail end where the traffic of all the people had already pushed a lot of the elk to private. And so
Mm.
we had pretty much kind of caught like the tail end of those elk before they went to private. And so they had already pushed down the lower elevations. They weren't going to deal with the traffic. They're like, we're getting out of here. And so we, in hindsight, we should have moved more instead of being stuck to that area.
So you recommend keeping like a mobile pack, like just run and gun.
Yeah, that I mean, especially with like guys like you and I, like we're going 15, 16, 18 hours away from home. A lot of us are limited to, 6 days, 7 days out in
Hmm.
the woods. So you don't have a lot of time. And so you just got to stay mobile. And I think one of the other things that kind of hurt us is we're like, oh, well, we went here the year before. Let's go spend a day over there. Well, there wasn't a freaking elk in sight. And so don't be afraid to stay mobile, move as much as you can, and the whole looking back on history, we went to this spot, like don't get hung up on that too much.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I used to hop on those forums and
Mhm.
like hey, read some of the stuff like I saw elk at this road and blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
Well, I'm kind of worried on forums anyway because like when I lived back in Arkansas, we'd go duck hunting and we'd look on forums and see where the ducks are flying. And there's always one or two people that's like, "Hey, here's some coordinates to a really good duck spot." So
And
you
it's
put those coordinates in, you get there, and it's the dang sanctuary, waterfowl sanctuary. You can't hunt it.
uh
So I'm like, I gotta second guess the information I get on some of these forums.
yeah, I do too. The thing that I try to look for in forums is trends.
Yeah,
Trying to identify like where guys are saying like specific spots. Um And then the other thing that I really do, especially like Arizona mule deer hunting, we went this past year. There's a lot of guys out there that they stick to the roads. They drive up and down on their Polaris Rangers. They step 10 feet away from it and they put up a spotting scope. And you'll see a couple of deer a few hundred yards away. But what we found, and the same thing applies to elk hunting, is getting away from the roads because we found once we got one ridge over, we're like, oh, there's more deer. Well, then we get two ridges over, we're like, wow, there's more deer. Then you get three ridges over, sunlight starts coming up, and it's like, wow, there's deer there, there's deer there, there's deer there, and there. And so it's like the further away you can get from roads, I've seen more animals whenever I've
right.
done that.
What I mean is just like they know the area better than you do because
Hmm.
that's their home. So they definitely try to stay away from the road because all the sound and human scent.
Yeah, and
So
see, and that's where e-scouting comes in handy because you can find out where there's a trail, you can find a road. Sometimes not all the roads are marked on GPS, so sometimes people find those, sometimes people don't. But either way, I try to look at that. I'll pull up a topo layer, and it's like, okay, elevation gain isn't here. Here, it's not too bad, so we can move relatively easy over a couple of ridges and hopefully get into them.
oh heck yeah. So like, how do you prep for like backcountry hunting? Like, do you got like a workout regimen, or do you just like just try to stay in shape all year long?
Man, I try to stay in shape year long, but then typically around, I'd say late January, February, I try to ramp it up pretty hard. Like right now, I've been doing the 90 Days to Freedom program from Elk Shape that he has, and dude, it's a I'm probably in the best shape right now that I've been in since I was a college track athlete. Um, like right before I hopped on this podcast, I had to do 500 step ups for time on a 20-inch box with 45 pounds on your back. And it's a beast of a workout because at the end of this 90 days, the whole goal is we're working up to try and do 1,000 pound or 1,000 step ups for time with that 45 pounds on your back.
Oh, like what, like a 45 pound like barbell or like a sandbag?
whatever you got. Like I right now, like I've got my kafaru that I put on, and I've got a 45-pound sandbag that I put on the back. And I mean, you can kind of tailor it to whatever equipment you have. So like I just did it in my garage. I've got a step up box, put the kafaru on, and just started doing a bunch of step ups, and it sucked.
Oh, no. See, I know Elk Shape. I've seen some of his workouts on YouTube, and I'm like, man, that dude he's insane. He gets at it.
Dude, he does, and he's got a lot of really good workouts on his website that I've picked up. I mean, they're relatively cheap. Like this one I've got right now is like $40, and I've got a buddy right now that he's like, dude, I need a workout, buddy. Like, he's not a big bow hunter like you and I are, but he's like, man, I need to work out. Like, what have you been doing? I'm like, oh, I've got this 90 days to freedom program. Tell you what, I think I'm on like week 8 right now. I'm like, dude, I'll start it over for you.
How's he doing so far in it?
He actually, this was actually yesterday when he's texting me this, and
Oh,
so,
okay.
hopefully, I'm gonna be able to get him started on it here pretty soon. Because I mean, I've been doing it by myself, and it sucks. Uh, but I'm looking forward to getting him on it and see how he does. But yeah, I try to do that, and then right about June, July, August, I really that's when I have the pack on a lot, and I'm trying to put in a lot of 1, 2, 3 mile hikes a week. So I'm like, I'll alternate, but I'm typically trying to get 3 to 4 hikes in a week with that heavy pack on.
About how far? Is a couple miles.
Man, yeah, and it'll depend on how I feel too. Like I might some days I just do a mile. Some days I do 2 miles, 3 miles, and it depends on where at in the neighborhood or where I'm at in town. Like we've got this pretty big hill that's not far away. It's a mile hike to it, but then to get to the top of it, it's another, I think, half mile, 3/4 mile. But I mean, it's a pretty steep incline, and so I'll do that and come back. So it's like 3 miles all in all. But I just alternate, and then like um, right before I go to the mountains, I'm trying to do like high intense short burst stuff. So like I might put like 60 pounds in the pack and only do a mile and try and hit it as fast as I can. But I'm just trying to stay in shape year round. I know
Yeah.
around the holidays, like I eat too many cookies, food and drinks, that's why I work out year round. I mean, I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder, so I enjoy the holidays, but after that, I really try to stick to a somewhat strict diet. I don't, I like to enjoy my Dr. Pepper, my Cokes, and have the occasional beer, mixed drink. I mean, I still have fun,
Oh
enjoy
yeah, for
life,
sure.
but I just try and stay in shape year round.
See, that's my problem. I will from January to the end of August. I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm working out every day. I'm running, and
Mm-hmm.
then hunting season comes, and I won't see a gym until January 1st.
Same, dude. Dude, it's the same. Like I know as soon as August hits, I mean, yeah, it'll be hard to see me in the gym.
Yeah, it's wild because you can like I look at pictures like, man, I was in good shape this summer,
Mm-hmm.
and then like September, like I'm kind of getting a little pudgy. October, like, hey man, you need to slow down a little bit. November, December, it's gone. Like I'm just kind of I hit it probably about 250, 255. Then January will start, and I'll start working out and get down to about 225, 230. And then
Mm-hmm.
I so this year my goal is to maintain year round, man. Just
The biggest thing I found with that is, and the hardest part about it is diet and eating around the holidays. Like that's the hardest part about it is just watching diet because it's so freaking easy to go into like a, Whataburger, McDonald's, especially when you're on the road for
mhm.
hunts and stuff. It's so easy to just go in and just grab something. But the way that I kind of found to help curtail that is like when I go to a Whataburger or Sonic or something, like especially Sonic, I'll just ask for like 4 meat patties and I'll just eat it with mustard. Like I'll just put some mustard on it and that's all I eat because it's
Yeah.
still quick and I'm still getting something that's relatively tasty and it's not too terrible for me.
Yeah, I was doing that when I was on keto, just going to restaurants and
Mm-hmm.
just give me a chicken patty, just grilled chicken or like you
Meat,
said, some hamburger patties or something.
meat and cheese.
That's it. And
Yep.
that keto, I lost like 50 pounds, but I gained it right back as soon as I got off of it. It was I can't live like that.
Nah, dude, that's and not only that, diets like that, like they're extreme diets, and if you do them for long term, they can harm your body.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah, like keto stuff like that, like it's meant like it what it did for you, like it's meant to help you lose that weight quick, but then you have to shift because eating fats like that and doing that long term, it's not good for you.
Yeah, that first couple of weeks of doing it, I just felt miserable, and then felt a little better.
Hmm.
And then I say probably like probably like a week after I got off of it,
Hmm.
just eating like regular carbs again. I just felt all bloated up all the time, and so I was like, "This diet keto, I'm done with it."
Yep.
And I just kind of watch my macros.
Yeah, that's the main thing. You just got to watch what you eat, watch your intake. Like one of the things that Dan Staten preaches is the whole portion control and just like looking at your hand. So like I'll put this much vegetables. So like I'll look at my hand. I'm like, okay, a whole handful or like my whole hand size of veggies on the plate, and then I cut my hand in half, and I do half carbs and then half protein.
I gotta start trying that.
It's dude, and it's easy. So then like it's supposed your hand whatever study was done, I'm not sure. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not, I'm not a registered dietitian, but like there was some study it was done. It's like whatever the relative size of your hand is supposed to somehow correlate to the amount of macros and all that crap that you're supposed to eat that keeps you in a healthy state. And so like that's I just go off of that. And I mean it's done pretty well for me. Like I've maintained a body weight of like 175 to 180 pretty consistently for the past 4 years just doing that.
Um, yeah, that's something I gotta get into because I mean, I eat all right, but my portions are still kind of big. You cut back
Dude,
on the portion.
sometimes I go hard, especially when you put some Chinese or Italian food in front of me. That portion thing goes out the window. I don't care. I'm like I'm just gonna dive into this.
Oh yeah, see, yep, that's my Italian food is my weakness. When you give me the baked ziti, lasagna, cannolis,
Put some vodka sauce in front of me, it's over. Done.
hey, that gets me, man. So, hey, have you gotten into like the tree saddle trend?
Yes, I did last year for the first time, and I love it. I picked up a couple of the tethered phantoms, I believe, and I love it, dude. Like I down here in Texas, we don't have tall trees. You know that unless you're
Yep.
like out in East Texas or something. But
Well, no,
Central
that's
Texas,
where I'm from. I'm from Northeast Texas.
okay. What part?
Texarkana.
Okay. Do you know where Hawkins, Texas is?
I do not.
Tyler area.
I know what Tyler is. Yeah.
I got a bunch of friends out there. Not to get us off track,
Oh
but
no, it's all
anyway,
good.
anyway, like, yeah, tall trees are all in East Texas. Out here, like, you might have some tall oaks, but like where I hunt, I have like a 10-foot, 12-foot tall cedar tree that was right next to a heavily used trail, and I mean the thickest part of the tree was maybe 8, 9 inches in diameter, and so I was able to climb up that thing and set a saddle up, and so it works really well for that. And then I also plan on taking it up in the mountains with me because there were a lot of times that we came across a fresh wallow, dude. And you're looking around and you're like, there's nowhere to set up. Like I don't have clippers, so I can't cut trees. Um, there's no dead brush around for me to grab. The thermals and the wind are horrible right here. And so I'm gonna have that strapped on the back of my pack this fall.
My buddy Rex, before I got on the phone call with you, we had just talked about this.
Yeah.
He was like, bro, I think next year or this year, he goes, we gotta be mobile, man. He goes, we got because he's into tree saddles. I
Yep.
think I'm too big for it, but apparently I'm not.
Nah.
And he's like,
No.
dude, that spot where we saw that bull that came in, he goes, dude, we should have stayed there. He said we should have got up in the tree and just sat the rest of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was
And
like,
see,
dang.
that's like last year. My brother and I came across this wallow. I mean, it was probably about the size of a basketball court. There was just giant wallows just in this basketball sized court opening area, and we stumbled across it like I went back and looked on Google Earth. I went back and looked at Hunt Stand, and you can't see this spot because it's just the way the trees, I think, kind of cover it.
Yeah.
It's hard to see. And so we just stumbled across this thing. And the funny thing was when we found these, we're like, where the hell do we set up? And then we looked down on the ground and there's a piece of carpet. And we're like, that's strange. We're like 6 miles in. And we're like, we're looking around on the ground. And like from Texas, the first thing that comes through my mind is box blind
Yeah.
because that's all we got down here. And I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, I don't see a blind. And then I look up in this tree and I kid you not, man, it was an old tree stand. It had to have been there since the 70s, 80s. I mean, it was like this old metal rusted pipe, a plywood platform. I mean, it was old school, man. I mean, you could tell nobody had been up that in years. I mean, actually, we found the stakes in the tree, the climbing stakes, that the tree had actually started to grow around these stakes. We're like, okay, that
Dang.
thing's been there a long time. So like, no, somebody knows about this spot.
That what y'all did? Y'all came across some old guy from the '60s,
Dude,
and he did knock down a lot of bulls there.
we came across a honey hole, man. I mean, there were rubs everywhere, wallas, and we're like, dude. And that's when I looked up and I was like, I need to get into saddle hunting. And
Yep.
like, I came home, and like a week later, I see Eric Chesser killing a freaking bull out of a saddle in Colorado, and I'm like, damn it.
Yep. Got to do it now.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have it. And I mean, heck, even it's funny you're asking me this because Dan Staten, like him and I became really good friends over the time that while I was at Numa and we worked with him. Him and I became good friends, and he called me up and he's like, "Hey, I think I'm gonna take a saddle into the mountains with me. What brand do you recommend?" I was like, "Dude, tethered all the way."
Yep. I think I watched some guys on YouTube. They was talking about that. I think it was the Hunting Public guys, and I
Yeah,
think they used tether, and I was like, "Yep, that's what I'm gonna go with."
dude, I couldn't recommend them enough. They've got, I mean, you're gonna invest a pretty penny in them, but
Oh
to
yeah.
me, it's like, hey, if I'm going 20 feet up in a tree, I don't mind spending a little bit extra money on something that for better quality gear because my life's kind of dependent on that
Mm,
gear.
yep. Yeah, I had a buddy. He just got into tree stand hunting because he usually hunts from the ground blind. He was like, "Man, those safety lines are $60 a piece." And I'm like, "It's $60 for saving your life." You don't
60,
want to.
$60 for a hospital bill.
Yeah, which one you want?
Yeah.
so he started using it because he wouldn't wear a safety harness at all. He just climb up. I'm like, man, I done heard too many stories of people being up in a tree. You don't see nothing. You kind of doze off, and next thing you know, you on the
Oh yeah.
ground.
Yeah,
So
dude. And heck, I mean, I even wish I had saddles when I was in Nebraska because we were set up in these ladder stands and we had, pretty good decent amount of deer come right by us, but like 200 yards just behind us, there was a perfect tree and is really an area that you had to be super careful to get in to try and kill a deer. And then you had to be super quiet and careful to get out at night because you didn't want to screw this area up. That I wish I would have had a saddle then because I could have set up on a tree and probably killed the deer.
yeah. See, I'm terrified. That's my issue. I'm terrified of the dark. Oh,
Mhm.
I'm terrified of the dark when I'm in the woods. So I never sit until it gets dark ever.
Man, I used to be like that, and I think what changed it for me was, actually, I mean, I there's always kind of that feeling like somebody's watching you, but last
Hmm.
last year was the first time I came off a mountain in the dark or went up in the dark, um, and I mean, ever since then, I'm like walking in the dark. It's not a problem for me anymore. Before, it's like, oh shit, I got to get to the stand as fast as I can. There's, the thing I always envision is like, did you ever watch I Am Legend?
Yes.
Dude, I don't know why, but ever since I watched that movie in high school, that's what I envision in the woods coming out to get me is one of those. I don't even know what they're called. Those zombie things out of I Am Legend. So like, I'm always worried like one of those is just gonna come screaming through and grab my ass. And so I used to be afraid of that. But then like as soon as that first walk in and walk out I made in the dark in Colorado, um, gone. done. Because like you're having to focus so much on like where you're stepping.
Mm-hmm.
You're checking the trail ahead. You're checking your phone, making sure you're staying on the trail so you can get back to the trailhead. Um, and then like the first couple times you camp out there at night, it eventually goes away.
Yeah, we were. I forgot where we were. We were like right outside Colorado Springs,
Mm-hmm.
and we're. It's. I think it's like 10:30. It's pretty dark, and we're
Yeah.
walking. And I know we're on the trailhead, but I kept seeing a sign that kept saying "trailhead gone." And he was like, "No, like trailhead is rerouted or something." My buddy's like, "No, man, we just gotta stay on this trailhead." So we're walking, and I just feel this like gust of breeze come through. I'm like, something ain't right, man. And we turned the corner, and kid you not, it was gone. there was it. There was nothing. It was a drop off, and
Whew.
they had a little there's a little plastic fence.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, so now, dude, we didn't walk 45 minutes, hour
The wrong
the
direction.
wrong way. So what we gonna do now? And he's like, we just gotta bushwhack it. So we just like went off the trail and just following the map. I'm like, dude, is this a bad idea? And took us in like taking us 3 hours to get back. And then we ended up 2 miles east of where we were supposed to be. So then
Oh
we had to walk
shit!
back to the truck.
Damn, damn.
We got like maybe 200 yards from the truck. I could see the reflectors on the truck, and something like shook in the bushes, and we just go, let's go, let's go, and we ran all the way to the truck.
Dude, yeah, I've been there before. I've been there.
So have you ever gotten to any bear hunting?
Man, I haven't yet. I want to. I'm trying to plan something for this June up in Idaho, but I don't know if it's going to happen, but I really want to do it.
Yeah, I had a trip. Well, I still got a trip planned in Canada. I
Hmm.
booked it 2019. I was supposed to go in 2020.
Yep.
Well, pandemic happened. So
Yep.
the guy was like, "Well, we'll push it back to 2021. I'm sure all this stuff will blow over." 2021, they open up, but I'm not vaccinated, and
Hmm.
he told me like a week before, like, "Hey, the border's open for vaccinated people. Come on up." I'm like, "Well, I'm not vaccinated, and you gave me a week notice." So he's pushed it to 2022. So because he's not giving my money back, he already told me, he goes, either you can keep moving the hunt back or you lose your deposit. So I'll keep pushing it back as long as long as I can.
That's my thing. Like, I want to go try and kill a whitetail in Canada, but I'm like, I'm not going to go get vaccinated just so I can go kill a deer.
Yep,
I'm not going to do it.
plenty of them here. So hopefully I'll just keep saving my chips and I'll go up to Alaska and get me a big old grizzly one day.
Dude, that's my goal. I want to go up there and get a caribou. That's what I want to do.
Everybody I talk to about Alaska, they say caribou.
A caribou, like I told my wife, I said, look, before I'm 50, I'm going to go to Alaska and I'm going to be gone an entire month. It's a once in a lifetime trip. I want to go kill a caribou. I want to go kill a moose. I want to kill blacktail. I want to kill whatever the hell I can kill. I want to catch a bunch of fish, but that's my once in a lifetime trip because I know it's going to cost an arm and a leg. I want to go do
Hmm.
it. I want to go do it right. I don't care if I have a guide. I don't care if I have an outfitter. Like I don't. I want to do it right, and I want to go have that once in a lifetime trip up there.
Oh heck yeah! One of my store managers, her father worked for Hornady,
Mm-hmm.
so every year he's up in Alaska and he's killing grizzlies. He got a bighorn sheep. He got
Dang.
a Arctic goat or something like that. Then he went over to New Zealand,
Mm-hmm.
got a big red stag. I'm like, this dude's
Sheesh.
trophy room has to be crazy. She goes, "Oh, check this out." She shows me his trophy room, and it's just mounts everywhere. I'm like, "Up, that's the life right there."
Yep. Goals.
Yep,
Goals.
life goals, man.
Yep.
Life goals. Hey, so at the end of every podcast, I ask everybody,
Mm-hmm.
"What is your dream hunt?"
Mm.
You only hunt one animal, all expenses paid. Where you going and what you hunting?
Dude, that's so hard for me to answer because I've got this bucket list. I'm not kidding you. Like a couple of years ago, I told my wife I think there's like 10 hunts on there. I mean, it's everything from like Canada whitetail, Alaskan moose, and then it goes to like Pike County, Illinois whitetail. Um, dude, I would probably have to say it's going to have to be that Alaskan trip. I
Yeah.
I think that once in a lifetime, going up there for a whole month, working up to that, and just staying up in Alaska for a month and just chasing after a moose, chasing after a caribou, chasing after blacktail, like whatever I can get my hands on. Like that's I'd have to say that's my dream hunt.
All archery or rifle too?
Dude, see that's the other part is like part of me wants to be stubborn and be like, nope, archery only. Like I want to kill all these with a bow. And I think I want to be like that. But if I have the capability, like, like in Texas, where there's a lot of guys that take a bow and a rifle to the
Yeah.
stand with them, depending on their stand. Um, I think I'll definitely have that bow in my hand. And I think if after like a couple of days we realize like, hey, we're not going to be getting in within archery range of these animals, then that's when I'll have a 6.5 PRC in the plane or something.
6.5 PRC. What's that?
So it's like I guess the best way that I read up on it is, and I've got one. It's basically just like a beefed up version of a 6.5 Creedmoor. It's like you've got
Mm,
the
okay.
accuracy, and I guess see rifle hunting and long distance shooting. That's not my wheelhouse. Like archery is. Like I could talk to you all day about archery and doping your sights and everything, but like I think like ballistically, it's pretty close to what a 6.5 Creedmoor is, but it has way more knockdown power.
I got you. See, that's my thing. Like when I talk hunting with people and they start talking, ballistics on rifles, I'm like, I don't know. I shoot a 30-06, man. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, I've got a 30-06, and I've got the 6.5 PRC because I mean, eventually I do want to go kill an elk with the rifle. Like I think that'd be really cool. Like I've seen people do that. Like snow's on the ground. It's like second or third rifle season, and you go knock down a big bull elk with a rifle or like a mule deer. Like I've got all these aspirations, and so that's why I've got that gun.
Oh yeah. Do you have a suppressor on it?
And not yet. I want to. I want to.
Yeah, I'm literally right down the street from Silencer Central. So I'm like, I need to go over there and get my 6.5 Creedmoor threaded
Mm-hmm.
and then give me a suppressor. And now they got like this 90-day e-signature stuff, so you can get it in 90 days instead of the whole year.
Dude, that's what I've heard. We actually work with Silencer Central at Hunt Stand, and I'm going to an event for them at the end of June, but I don't know where.
If we have I don't know if they're founded out of Sioux Falls, but I know they have a huge warehouse like right on the east side of town, like right down the road.
Heck yeah.
So, oh yeah. Well, Will, hey, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to come talk to me, man. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while.
Absolutely, man. I really enjoyed it. It's fun for me to be on the other side of the podcast and not have the host. So I've definitely had fun on this one, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, no problem, man. And a good luck for the rest of your turkey season. And if I don't talk to you before then, good luck on your elk hunt this year.
Heck yeah, dude. You too. And let's keep up on social media.
Oh, for sure, man. Hey, I follow you. I think you follow me, and we
Yep.
we in there.
Heck yeah, man.
All righty. Well, this has been another episode of the Dreaded Archer Podcast with my boy Will Cooper. We're out.